video, we're gonna be reacting to Dan Marino, and we're gonna see how good he really was back in the day, man. Because I wasn't around being a Dolphin fan when Dan Marino was playing, so we're gonna check out to see how good he really was, man. Best quarterback in Miami Dolphins franchise history. But please like, comment, subscribe for more content. Let's check this out.
Athletes are often judged, rightly or wrongly, by their postseason accomplishments. And in the NFL, no position has more pressure to win than quarterback. A QB can't even be considered in the greatest of all time argument without the rings to back it up. And yet, so many all-time great signal callers have never lifted a trophy, which leads to a different GOAT conversation. Who's the greatest player to never win an NFL championship? The answer to that is easy. It's the man many consider the greatest pure passer to ever play, the three-time first-team All-Pro, the MVP. It's Dan Marino.
Man, we let Dan Marino down, man. We really let Dan Marino down. Hey, if one year we win the Super Bowl, we gotta let him unretire, be on the team so he get that ring. Simple as that, man.
But before Marino became an NFL superstar, he was a legendary quarterback for his hometown college team, the Pitt Panthers. He amazed everyone with his rocket arm and lightning-fast release from the pocket. Over a 4-year collegiate career, he threw for 8,500.
And they jerseys look like practice jerseys, to be real.
97 yards and 79 touchdowns. Both were school records at the time. With Marino under center, the Panthers had,
I think Kenny Pickett broke those records, if I'm not mistaken.
Some of their best years in program history, going 42-6 from 1979 to 1982, and posting 3 straight 11-win seasons. But despite their consistent success, Pitt never won a national championship. The closest they got was number 2 in the Associated Press's final ranking in 1980. So Marino learned what it felt like to fall short of a championship before ever even making it to the NFL. Regardless, his play in college spoke for itself, and he was clearly a first-round talent heading into the '83 draft. A draft that's widely regarded as the best of all time and was absolutely loaded at the quarterback position. Of course, John Elway was the headliner and a lock to be the number 1 pick, but many had Marino graded close to Elway, and everyone expected him to be taken early. Instead,
y'all let me know in the comments who y'all taking, Dan Marino or Elway. Let me know in the comments.
Dropped almost all the way out of the first round and was the 6th quarterback taken.
The Dolphins select quarterback Dan Marino of Pittsburgh.
So how is that even possible? Well, Marino's worst college season was his senior year, and during his time at Pitt, he built a reputation as a partier, with rumors going around that he even indulged in hardcore drugs from time to time. The rumor was never confirmed, and Marino later said that there was nothing to it. But in NFL circles, many believed it, and thought that could be the explanation for his senior struggles. In fact, Marino was even drug tested by the university as the rumor spread. His test came back clean. But that information wasn't made public until 1984, Marino's second year in the NFL. So, yes, a rumor was largely the reason so many teams passed on Marino, including his hometown Steelers, who picked 21st. But one team that wasn't scared off was the Miami Dolphins, who jumped at the chance to take Marino with the 27th overall pick, the next to last selection in the first round. And it makes perfect sense, right? Let's send the alleged party animal with drug issues to Miami.
So, kind of like the same thing that happened with Lamar Jackson. He fell to number 32. Dan Marino fell all the way to the end of the first round, but we still ended up picking him up. So, good pick by the Miami Dolphins. We ain't chased a quarterback. It just fell to our laps. Just like Larry Tunsil did.
What could go wrong? Luckily, nothing did. And the selection of Marino became one of the greatest value picks in NFL history, especially because Marino was now coming in with a chip on his shoulder. And he was being coached by the legendary Don Shula, who knew what it took to be a great quarterback. He played with Johnny Unitas and Otto Graham, and later coached Unitas with the Colts. So he instantly knew what he had in Marino. He saw in him a quality that other quarterbacks just didn't possess. The thing that Dan could do was fit that ball into tight places. And Marino was able to do that because he was fearless throwing the
throwing behind his back, man. That's crazy.
Marino was able to do that because he was fearless throwing the football.
Too.
He brought a new meaning to the term gunslinger. There were times in the field when I felt like I couldn't miss. In week 3 of Marino's rookie season,
if that was the case, he would have won a championship already. You would have won a championship, man.
Shula threw him in a Monday night game against the Raiders in place of starter David Woodley. The Dolphins were trailing 27-0 with 5 minutes to play, and Marino threw 2 touchdown passes to make the score look respectable. In Week 5, he made another relief appearance after Woodley failed to put up any points. Marino came in and threw a touchdown for the Dolphins' only score in a loss to the Saints. Then, just a few days later, Shula named Marino the starter.
I decided to give him the opportunity to start the ball game today right from the top to see how he does.
And instantly, he became a star. In his first start, he threw for 322 yards and 3 touchdowns in an OT loss to the Bills. With Marino in charge, the Dolphins were a completely different team. They averaged 27 points a game in his 9 starts, which was 11 points better than their average before Marino became the starter. Miami won 9 of its last 10 games and captured the AFC East with a 12-4 record, earning a first-round bye in the playoffs. In their
I wish we got that right.
First game in the divisional round, they hosted the Seahawks, who had a 9-7 record in the regular season and made the playoffs as a wild card. The game would become Marino's introduction to
how we hosted the Seahawks when the Seahawks are in the NFC. How? But it probably changed from back then till now, so that probably explains it.
Postseason struggles. He threw 2 interceptions.
Marino, who is 10 for 13, firing. It's picked off. Yes, the intercept.
To go with 2 TDs as Miami blew a 4th quarter lead.
You know, when you're a gunslinger, you're going to throw interceptions, you're going to throw touchdowns. Either or.
Lost 27-20. But the season was still an individual success for Marino. He finished 3rd in MVP voting and made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. So there was a lot to look forward to in South Beach heading into the '84 season. With the playoff loss fueling them, Marino and the Dolphins were ready to go nuclear on the rest of the league. The destruction started in Week 1. Playing on the road against a good Washington team, Marino threw for 311 yards and 5 touchdowns for a 35-17 rout. All season long, he was simply untouchable. He threw at least a touchdown pass in all 16 regular season games.
Beautiful.
When the season was over,
that should be the standard as an NFL quarterback, being able to do that. That's how I know you're an official quarterback. If you could throw at least 1 touchdown each game, you're doing your job. You're doing your job.
He had shattered the NFL record for both passing yards and passing touchdowns in a season. Marino was the overwhelming choice for NFL MVP, and the voters picked him over.
Hey, this was Brady before Brady.
For Eric Dickerson, who set the league record for rushing yards in a season. That's just how unreal Marino was that season. With Marino destroying defenses, Miami started out 11-0 and finished with a 14-2 record. And Marino stayed hot in the playoffs. In the AFC Championship game, he torched the Steelers for 421 yards and 4 touchdowns in a
Tua, please do this in real life. Please do this in real life.
45-28 win as Miami cruised to the Super Bowl. But their opponent was the 49ers, led by Joe Montana. And Marino started hot in the game, completing 9 of his first 10 passes. The Dolphins scored the first 2 times they had the ball and led late in the first quarter, 10-7. But then it fell apart. The Niners defense made adjustments, and San Francisco's offense took control of the game by scoring.
You know, 49ers, they're going to always have a good defense, man. They're going to always have a good defense.
21 straight points. In the second half, Marino desperately tried to lead a comeback, but he ended up throwing 2 interceptions to seal the Dolphins' fate. Miami was shut out in the final 30 minutes and lost 38-16. After a game like that...
Hey, Joe Montana. He that boy. He definitely is that boy, man.
A lot of teams would have suffered a Super Bowl hangover, but not the Dolphins. Not with Marino behind center. And after winning MVP and appearing in a Super Bowl in just his 2nd season, it was widely expected that Marino would win not 1, but multiple Super Bowls over his career.
Man, I wish, man. I wish. The Dolphins deserve at least 2 Super Bowls in this time span between 1985 and now. At least 2.
In 1985, Miami won their division again with a 12-4 record. For a 2nd year in a row, Marino led the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns. And in Week 13, he produced an epic performance in an instant classic. On a Monday night in Miami, he faced the 12-0 Chicago Bears and their fearsome 46 defense. But Marino was always 1 step ahead of the Bears' pass rush all night. He completed only 14 passes in the game, but went for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, he was cooking. He was cooking.
Miami spanked Chicago 38-24. It was the Bears' only loss of the season.
38-24?
A month later, Marino was back in the playoffs. He was now...
How do you not win the Super Bowl this year? How do you not win the Super Bowl this year? Makes no sense to me.
3 for 3 in getting to the postseason. Then, in the divisional round, the Dolphins hosted the Browns. After Miami fell behind 21-3, another playoff failure felt imminent, until Marino pulled off a postseason miracle. In the third quarter, he started the comeback with a TD pass to Nat Moore, and in the fourth quarter, he finished the job by leading a long scoring drive. On the first play after the 2-minute warning, Miami took a 24-21 lead on a Ron Davenport touchdown run and held on for the win. And so, they were headed back to the conference championship game with a team of destiny feel, hosting the New England Patriots. Miami was favored to beat New England and return to the Super Bowl. A win would also mean a rematch for the Bears. But once again, the Dolphins fell into a big hole. In the third quarter, they trailed 24-7. Marino would need to perform another miracle. But this time, he couldn't do it. Late in the fourth quarter, with his team down 31-14, he heaved a desperation pass into the end zone that was intercepted.
Again, intercepted by Claiborne.
That was Miami's 6th.
It seemed like Dan Marino was too confident in his arm. Too confident. But that was the style back then, like playing like Brett Favre and all that. That gunslinger mentality. Like nowadays, you know, you got to be a special quarterback to be throwing like this. A very, very special quarterback, man. Like Joe Burrow, I could trust him doing this. Josh Allen, I could trust him. Patrick Mahomes, you know. As of this year, he has 11 interceptions on the year, you know, but it don't seem like he's playing in that way, that gunslinger type of way, you know. But man, it seemed like if Dan Marino was more controlled back then, you know, it would limit the turnovers. But sometimes if you're playing that way, you won't get those touchdowns that you end up getting. You know, him slinging it. On top of that, the receivers that we had on our team, Clayton. I forgot the other receiver as well. You know, we had two good receivers. Like Dan Marino, Loki had his Tyreek Hill and his Jalen Waddle, technically.
Turnover of the game, and the Dolphins were done. This loss sent them into a downward spiral. In 1986, Marino had another tremendous season. For the third consecutive year, he led the league in passing yards and touchdowns, and Miami led the league in scoring. But the Dolphins' Week 3...
It seemed like we had a Dak Prescott around this time, but we all know Dan Marino was better than Dak Prescott. We all know that.
Game against the Jets showed them what the next 4 seasons would be like, because Marino was on fire that day. He completed 30 of 50 passes for 448 yards and a career-high 6 touchdowns. But Miami's defense just...
But he doing this back in the day. Back in the day, that's way more impressive than doing that now.
Could not stop the Jets. On the final play of regulation, New York scored a touchdown to force overtime. A few minutes later, the Jets won, 51-45, on a long pass from Ken O'Brien to Wesley Walker.
Hector O'Brien going for it all to Walker. Touchdown!
I can't imagine losing to the Jets. I can't. It just makes me sick to my stomach thinking about losing to the Jets. It just does.
An identity was being created, a historic offense led by Marino and a horrible defense that held the Dolphins back. From 1986 through 1989, Miami missed the playoffs. Then, in 1990, the defense finally got fixed, and Marino no longer needed to carry the load. Miami was back to being a playoff team almost every year. But that ultimately just led to more bitter endings for Marino and the Fins. But we'll get to those losses in a minute. First, we have to jump to the 1993 season, where, in Week 6, Marino was facing the Browns in Cleveland. In the second quarter, he dropped back to pass. As he tried to step up in the pocket, his right foot got stuck in the turf. He threw the pass, and it turned out to be his last play of the season. Marino suffered a torn Achilles, and the Dolphins' hope of a Super Bowl run were yet again crushed. In the summer of 1994,
same thing happened to Tannehill. Same thing.
Marino was 32 and working his way back from a serious injury. Prior to going down, he had played in 145 consecutive non-strike games. But now there were questions about how he would hold up when he returned to the field. Well, he gave us his answer in Miami's season opener against the Patriots. Marino and New England's Drew Bledsoe put on an insane aerial duel. The two men combined for 894 yards and 9 touchdowns passing. Marino threw 5 TDs himself, and the 5th was an absolute "did he just do that?" moment. With just over 3 minutes to play, Miami was trailing by 4 points and facing a 4th down at the New England 35. Marino could have settled for a first down, but
Wait, y'all see the dirt? What the hell them boys playing on? Ain't no way this is real. This gotta be edited. Gotta be edited.
And facing a 4th down at the New England 35. Marino could have settled for a 1st down, but he saw Irving Fryer get wide open down the sideline and hit him in stride for a go-ahead touchdown. Miami held on for a 39-35 win. I actually wasn't sure how I was going to play. Once I got out there and started playing, it was like I wasn't even hurt. In Week 13, Marino conjured more late-game magic, but this time he showed off sleight of hand. Against the Jets in a game with huge playoff implications, Miami trailed 24-6 in the 3rd quarter. Marino threw 2 touchdown passes to Mark Ingram to get it to 24-20. Then, with 2.5 minutes remaining, the Dolphins got the ball back at their 16-yard line. Marino drove his team into the red zone. With 34 seconds remaining, he motioned like he was going to spike the ball and stop the clock. He took the snap and dropped back to pass, hitting Ingram in the end zone on a back shoulder pass against an unsuspecting.
But only Marino could do this. Like, only the best quarterbacks in the league could do this at this current moment. Only the best, man. So Marino, he was way beyond his years. Way beyond his years.
Aaron Glenn. Miami went on to win 28-24. That fake spike crushed the Jets' souls and sent the Dolphins on their way to the playoffs, where, of course, they would fall short again. By now, coming up short was a theme. From 1990
it's like we allergic to the playoffs. We allergic.
to 1999, Miami reached the postseason 7 times. 7 more chances for Marino to win a title. Each time, the Dolphins came up short. In fact, they never even got to a Super Bowl. They lost twice in the wild card round, 4 times in the divisional round, and once in the AFC title game. The final loss in the 1999 AFC divisional round was the ultimate embarrassment. Miami traveled up to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars, and the 38-year-old Marino tried to summon whatever powers he had left. He had nothing. On his first pass of the game, he threw an interception. Later in the first quarter, he was sacked and then fumbled. The Jags returned it for a touchdown to go up 24-0. The score later ballooned to 41-0. Just before halftime, Marino threw a consolation TD pass.
Touchdown.
And in the 3rd quarter, he was taken out of the game. Miami lost 62-7.
But we lost like that to the Jaguars. We lost like that.
It was the largest defeat in franchise history and the 2nd most lopsided playoff score ever. This game was also the last one of Marino's NFL career. A cruel end for an all-time great player whose playoff woes would forever haunt him.
I'm telling you, not with that
wait a minute. I got to a Super Bowl.
I know you better.
In March of 2000, he announced his retirement. A ring would now be out of reach forever. The Super Bowl loss in his 2nd season was the only time Marino ever made it to the big game. I thought for sure I'd be back to the Super Bowl, and I would win a Super Bowl. You just got to accept what it is. And it really sucks that the lack of a Super Bowl title overshadows what he did in his career, because damn, he was good. At the time of his retirement, he held the NFL record for touchdown passes, passing yards, completions, touchdown passes in a season, and passing yards in a season. He also led 33 fourth-quarter comebacks, second only to Johnny Unitas's 34. He posted 147 wins as a starter and was selected to 9 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pro first teams. Then, in 2005, Marino added Pro Football Hall of Famer to his list of accomplishments. So he really doesn't need a...
Hey, at least he did that. Hall of Fame. At least he did that, man. But I wish he had got a ring. I definitely do wish that he had got a ring, man. Every Miami Dolphin deserves a ring. Every Miami Dolphin.
Ring to have his career validated. Marino was the greatest passer the NFL had ever seen at the time, and he paved the way for so many gunslingers that came after him. If you enjoyed this video, stick with Blitz, subscribe, and check out...
Damn, man. Marino, man. I wish we had got one for you. I wish, man. Dan Marino stats. We're going to see his career stats. He started playing in 1999. He ain't played for no other team. He didn't. First year, 2,210 yards. Second year, 5,084 yards. Third year, 4,000, 4,000. 3,000, 4,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 4,000. But he kind of have like a Patrick Mahomes type of year. Not year, career. Let me check out Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes stats. So with Dan Marino, his first year, you know, he played 11 games and he got 2,210 yards. I'm pretty sure if Patrick Mahomes played his first game, he would get the same thing. But his second year, that's when he had hit that 5K. Then 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, 5,000, 4,000. 2024, 2,000. This year, it seems like he's on pace for 3,000 something. 3,000, 4,000, maybe. I don't think 4,000, but high 3,000. That's what he on pace for. But he had hit the 5,000 mark twice. Dan Marino only hit it once. He almost hit it in 1986, almost 4,746. But he ain't make it. He ain't make it. That year he had 44 touchdowns, the most touchdowns in a year. No, in 1984 he had 48 touchdowns. Mahomes, what he had that year? 50 touchdowns. So Mahomes was doing Marino stuff after Marino. You know, this year he had 41. So that's crazy. Mahomes, he looking like a Hall of Famer already. Hall of Famer already, man. You know, but that's the only person you could really compare him to. I wouldn't. You could say Josh Allen maybe, but I just feel like Mahomes is the better suited comparison to Marino. Way better suited. But yeah, shout out to Marino, man. Being that QB for the Miami Dolphins. Shout out to him.